Hello, and welcome to this series of instructional videos for the Flint Hills Technical College Interactive Multimedia Design Animation 1 course. This series of videos will allow you to develop some basic modeling skills using Autodesk's 3ds Max software. To complete this project, you should have already purchased the LEGO brand Mixels Creator model number 41503. As you work on each piece, you should always examine and refer to the actual LEGO block that you have for closer inspection. I will take you step by step through the modeling of each LEGO piece in the next 26 videos. I should mention that LEGO does not endorse or support the IMD program in any way. To successfully complete these tasks, you should already be familiar with navigating the 3ds Max Workspace, viewports, tools, and a few basic keyboard shortcuts. You should also be familiar with creating standard primitives, modifying their parameters, and converting them into editable polygons. Prior basic understanding of the sub-poly editing modes would be beneficial as well. By the end of the semester, you will have modeled every piece of your Mixel character, applied basic materials to each piece, added lights and cameras to your scene, and have created an assembly animation of your LEGO model. In a future class, you will return to this model and animate the character. I have already taken the time to set up a base set of measurements that we will follow for modeling all parts of the LEGO blocks. By making sure each element follows these measurements exactly, we will ensure that the pieces fit together correctly when we start our assembly animation. Because of this, be sure to carefully match the measurement of each element of your model to the video's measurements. Let's get started. We will start with one of the simplest pieces and work our way up to the more complex pieces. But first, we will build some of the core elements and get their dimensions exactly correct so that we can use them over and over to build our other LEGO blocks. Start by creating a new empty scene. To assure that all of us are working in the same unit of measure, we will set the system to metric. Go to Customize, Unit Setup, and make sure that metric is selected and that centimeters is selected, and then click on OK. Select the perspective viewport and maximize it using the Alt-W keyboard shortcut. Go to the Create tab of the Command panel. Make sure that Standard Primitives is selected, and click on the Box button to create a box. We're starting by creating the base block that all other blocks will be based off of. Create a box in the perspective viewport. Always remember to right-click when you are done creating your object. Next, go to the Modify tab of the Command panel and find the Parameters rollout. Change the length to 10 centimeters, the width to 10 centimeters, and the height to 4 centimeters. Make sure the measurements are exact. Select the Move tool, and then we will center the base block to the world by zeroing out the X, Y, and Z coordinates. You can either type 0 in each section, or you can right-click on the spinner to zero them out. Finally, deselect your box in your viewport. Next, we'll create a second box that we will use sort of like a cookie cutter to cut the box-shaped hole in the bottom of our LEGO blocks. Return to the Create tab and click on Box again. Create a second box in your viewport. Right-click when done and return to the Modify panel. Set the length to 6 centimeters, the width to 6 centimeters, and the height to 3 centimeters. We will organize the location of each of these objects by moving this box to -15 on the x-axis and 0 on the y-axis and 0 on the z-axis. It's a good idea to keep things organized, considering by the time we're finished, we will have approximately 30 different pieces in our scene. Next, we will create the base pin that sits on top of most Lego pieces and connects them together. Go to the Create tab and click on Cylinder and create a cylinder in your viewport. Back in the Modify tab, change the radius to 3, the height to 2, and the number of sides to 36. Finally, place it neatly next to the other pieces, moving it to the x-axis of 15, a y of 0, and a z of 0. We also need to create a second cylinder that we can use as a cookie cutter to cut the small holes in the bottom of most Lego pieces. Inspect your actual Lego box to get a good idea of what you need to create. Create a new cylinder and change its dimensions to a radius of 1, a height of 2, and make sure the sides are at 36. Position it at an x of 25, y of 0, and z of 0. Finally, if you look carefully at each pin on the top of Lego blocks, actually they have the word Lego embossed on them. Although we will not make every block an exact replica or a high poly model, we will try to add a fair amount of detail to each of them. Return to the Create tab. Click on Splines or Shapes. Make sure it is set to Splines and click on Text. Click once in the viewport. You will notice that the words Max Text automatically appear to be lying flat on the ground plane and that they are two-dimensional splines. Usually they're pretty large as well. In the Parameters rollout, change the size to 3. And in the text area, highlight Max Text and type in Lego in all caps. For the font, choose Arial, Narrow, Italic. Return to the Modify tab if you have not already, and let's move the text into place. Since it will sit on top of the pin and the pin is 2 centimeters high, move the text 2 centimeters on the z-axis. The y-axis will be 0, and the x-axis should be somewhere close to 15 to get us close. Change to your top viewport. You can also use your view cube to navigate, but you may notice that I'll switch quickly between views by using keyboard shortcuts, using T for top, F for front, L for left, and B for bottom. Zoom in so you can see what you're doing, and now position the word Lego correctly on top of the pin. At this point, you should be moving strictly on the X and Y axis, since your Z axis needs to stay at 2 centimeters. I will also change the default color for an object from time to time to make it easier to see. In this case, I will change the default color to black for the text. Now I can see it much easier. I did that up here in the upper right hand corner of the Modify tab. Adjust the font size to 2.5. Switch to the front viewport after you have it where you want it. I'm doing this by hitting the letter F. You can see it doesn't stick up at all, and then you can't even see it. So we will add an Extrude Modifier. Go to the modifier list and find Extrude. Next, change the amount to 0.1. Select the original pin cylinder, convert it to an editable poly. Click on the Attach button and then attach the text. Click on Attach again or right-click to cancel attach mode. By attaching the word to the pin, they will now move as one unit. Keep in mind that they are now both editable polys, so you can no longer access the original parameters such as radius and height of the cylinder or make any changes to the text. You have now created the 4 base pieces that we will use to create most of our Lego blocks. It is good practice to name each object you create in 3ds Max. Select the main block and in the Modify tab, change its name to the following: M_10X10X4_main_block. Eventually, you will create your own naming systems, but I think you'll quickly get the idea behind my naming conventions. Select the second block, and again, name it M_6x6x3_block_cut out. Select the peg with the word Lego on it. Name it M_6x2_main_peg. And then select the last cylinder and name it M_2x2_pin_cutout. Go to the Application menu and choose Save As. Give your file a name. I'm naming mine last name underscore creator underscore MP underscore model underscore V1. It's important to name your files correctly and consistently. You will add a version number to each end of each file. And remember to save often. If you make a mistake, you can always get back to a prior version and not be forced to redo so much work. Obviously, it's also extremely important to save your file in the proper location. Finally, click on the Manage Layers button in your top toolbar. Just like Photoshop and Illustrator, 3ds Max has a Layers panel. It does work a little bit differently, but file organization is a must for multimedia professionals, and you will separate each Lego piece onto its own layer during this project. Select the 4 objects in your scene. Click on the Create New Layer from Selection button in the Layers panel. Rename this layer M underscore base underscore objects. Finally, save your project. You have now completed video number 1. Continue on with this project by completing video number 2 next.